Hello and welcome to myfinanceteacher.org. In this video I want to talk about Bitcoin, and I think there is an interesting trading opportunity in Bitcoin at the moment. Although in the short term the risk-reward ratio is good, but not really that great. Before we continue, let me remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and click that bell notification. Thanks a lot. I want to start with regular cycles in Bitcoin. I do like to find cycles in price performance of the assets that I trade because I think those cycles represent market sentiment, emotions of the investors, of the traders, speculators, and we're all prone to emotions except for those trading bots. Anyway, talking about cycles, let's look at them starting all the way back at the beginning of 2017. We could go even earlier than that, but I think that's far enough. So this is the way I see cycles in Bitcoin, and if you've seen my previous videos, you'll notice that I've talked about these cycles multiple times. Now let's look at the average duration of these cycles. All of this period since the beginning of 2017, since the start of this cycle in early 2017 until the end of the previous cycle in late October 2019, we had 1014 days. And within this period we had 16 cycles. That gives just over 63 days on average per cycle, so about 2-month cycles, as I've mentioned many times in my previous videos. Now if we measure the duration of the ongoing cycle since the 23rd of October, that gives us 59 days, which means we are very close to a period where a regular cycle low should actually take place. And there is a good chance that the recent low that we saw on the 18th of December a couple of days ago did actually give us the completion of the previous 2-month cycle, which would have then lasted for 56 days, close enough to an average duration. And if the previous cycle has already finished, then there might be a good chance for gains in the advancing phase of the next cycle. Let's look at more details of this possibility. Right, so let's have a look at the technicals of the chart. First of all, comparing the price action with the RSI, you will notice a positive divergence. That's a situation where the price makes a lower low while RSI makes a higher low. That often precedes a rally, so that is a positive sign. Another positive sign is that Bitcoin has been quite oversold recently in the short term. Here in mid-December it was nearly 44%. And even today, it's over 30% below its 200-day moving average. I think it's due to correct that oversold level and the jump up towards that 200-day moving average. Although there's no guarantee that the Bitcoin will actually reach that moving average. After all, it's quite high at the moment at over 9,300. Another interesting thing is that the Bollinger Bands are narrowing. This often precedes a violent move either up or down. And given that we are in a normal duration for a regular cycle, a move up as part of the advancing phase of the next cycle is more likely, I think. So that combination of narrow Bollinger Bands and the normal duration of a cycle is another positive sign. Although there are negative signs, like the 50-day and 100-day moving averages are sloping downwards, we've recently seen them both crossing 200-day moving average to the lower side. Still, even if this downtrend since mid this year continues, I think there is a chance for at least a short-term rally in Bitcoin. Now looking at this downward channel, connecting the highs since mid this year and the lows, within this channel we see that if Bitcoin is in a new cycle already, and if it touches this upper boundary again, that is a potential rise to 82-8300. That would mean recovering both the 50-day and 100-day moving average, and moving somewhat closer to that 200-day moving average. If we see at Bitcoin's history again, even in the midst of the bear market in 2018, virtually every peak except for this peak in December 2018, all the other peaks have actually at least recovered both the 50 and 100-day moving averages and sometimes poked above them. So that happened every time but once since the bear market in Bitcoin began in early 2018. And if this time Bitcoin only recovers to its 100-day moving average, that would be a 16% gain, which would be nice, but of course it has to be compared to the risk level. We don't want to lose too much capital. And unfortunately, the risk level based on the recent low is relatively high as well. That's around 9% on the downside. So risk-reward ratio is somewhat attractive for me because I like to catch these cycle lows, but the ratio is not really that great. Now again, coming back to this downward momentum since the middle of this year, every bounce, as we will see, has actually recovered around 62% of the previous decline. Over here in August, the bounce recovered over 62%. Here in late October, the 3-day bounce recovered the 62% retracement as well. And if history repeats, even if we don't see a higher high, if only 62% is retraced, that's actually at about 8,900. So recovering the 100-day moving average is a very modest outlook. So this relatively attractive risk-reward ratio is again a modest rather than an exaggerated one. For that reason, I'm actually holding a long position in my cryptocurrency portfolio, but as I mentioned in my previous videos, I hodl 90% of my cryptocurrency portfolio and only trade with the remaining 10% of my cryptocurrency portfolio. And that's because whatever happens to Bitcoin in the short term, I think there is a huge potential in the longer term past the halving next year. So that is all for now. Have a nice weekend. Happy upcoming holidays. As a Christmas present for me, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and good luck in your trades.